In today's fast-paced, often chaotic world, it can feel nearly impossible to maintain a sense of calm. Emotions are constantly triggered by external events, stress from work, conflicts in relationships, or even the constant flow of information we receive on a daily basis. But what if there was a way to navigate this emotional storm with a sense of peace and clarity? What if we could stay grounded, no matter the circumstances? This is where Buddhism comes in. Buddhism, with its profound teachings and wisdom, offers a pathway to understanding and mastering our emotions. It's not just about calming down in the moment, it's about transforming our relationship with our emotions, learning how to respond with mindfulness, and cultivating emotional resilience over time. At the heart of Buddhist teachings is the concept of mindfulness. This practice encourages us to become fully aware of our thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations in the present moment without judgment. When we are mindful, we can observe our emotions without being swept away by them. Instead of reacting impulsively, we begin to create space between what we feel and how we respond. This space gives us the freedom to choose how we want to react, whether it's with patience, understanding, or calmness. But mindfulness is only one part of the equation. Buddhism also teaches us about the impermanence of all things, including our emotions. In other words, no feeling, whether it's anger, sadness, or even joy, lasts forever. This understanding helps us detach from our emotions, recognizing that they are fleeting and not permanent parts of our identity. When we grasp the impermanence of emotions, we can approach them with a lighter heart, knowing they will pass in time. Additionally, Buddhism emphasizes the importance of compassion and loving kindness, both towards ourselves and others. This is crucial when it comes to emotional control. Often, we become overwhelmed by our emotions because we are hard on ourselves or others. However, by practicing self-compassion and extending kindness to those around us, we can soften the intensity of our emotions. This shift in perspective helps us move away from judgment and towards understanding. Furthermore, Buddhist meditation practices, such as Vipassana and Metta Bhavana, are powerful tools for cultivating emotional control. Vipassana meditation, for instance, teaches us to observe the sensations in our body and the arising of emotions without attachment. As we deepen this practice, we develop a greater ability to stay present with our emotions without letting them dictate our actions. Through these practices, Buddhism provides us with a framework for emotional control that goes far beyond mere suppression of emotions. It's about developing emotional awareness, practicing detachment, and nurturing compassion, all of which allow us to stay centered in the face of life's challenges. So, whether you're dealing with the pressures of modern life or simply looking for a way to manage your emotions more effectively, the teachings of Buddhism offer timeless wisdom to help you stay calm, centered, and in control. In the next part of our exploration, we'll dive deeper into specific Buddhist techniques that can help you manage your emotions in real-life situations, allowing you to cultivate a peaceful mind and a balanced heart. Stay tuned as we uncover the transformative power of mindfulness and other Buddhist practices for emotional well-being. To truly grasp emotional control, we must first understand the root of our emotions. According to Buddhist philosophy, our emotions are not simply random reactions, they have deep roots in our attachments and desires. These desires are not limited to material things but also include our emotional cravings, such as the longing for approval, comfort, security, or even the desire to avoid pain and discomfort. In essence, every emotion we experience can be traced back to some form of attachment or desire, whether it's wanting something or fearing the loss of something. The cycle of craving and aversion is what creates emotional turbulence. When we crave something, a promotion at work, recognition, love, or even peace, we attach our sense of happiness and fulfillment to it. This attachment sets the stage for emotional volatility because, when we don't get what we desire, we experience frustration, sadness, or anger. On the flip side, when we fear losing something important to us, such as a relationship, status, or even our health, we experience anxiety, stress, and fear. These emotional reactions are simply the result of our attachments and the fear of losing what we hold dear. Buddhism teaches that the cycle of craving and aversion is what keeps us trapped in emotional chaos. We get caught in a loop of wanting and fearing, never truly at peace because our emotions are constantly being triggered by the rise and fall of our attachments. This is why many people find themselves feeling overwhelmed or out of control when emotions arise, as they are tied to desires that constantly shift and change. When we base our happiness on something external, we become slaves to our emotions. Our emotional state becomes dependent on factors outside of our control, and we lose the ability to maintain inner peace and balance. The first step in gaining control over our emotions, according to Buddhism, is recognizing this cycle. By acknowledging that our emotions are rooted in attachment and desire, we can begin to detach from them. This doesn't mean suppressing or ignoring our emotions. Rather, it means becoming aware of them and understanding why they arise. When we can see that our anger, sadness, or anxiety is a reaction to our attachments, we can begin to observe our emotions without being controlled by them. This awareness is a critical aspect of Buddhist practice. It's about seeing our emotional responses clearly, without judgment or reaction. Through mindfulness and meditation, we can develop the ability to observe our emotions as they arise, noticing the moment they are triggered by an attachment or desire. For example, if we feel angry because someone cuts us off in traffic, we can pause and realize that this anger comes from our attachment to having control over our time or our need for respect from others. Once we recognize this attachment, we can let go of the need to control the situation and choose a more peaceful, grounded response. Buddhism also teaches that the impermanent nature of all things, our desires, our emotions, and everything in the world can help us detach. Understanding that nothing is permanent, including our attachments, allows us to let go of the hold that emotions have on us. When we stop identifying with our emotions and instead see them as temporary, passing phenomena, we can regain a sense of control. We no longer need to be ruled by our desires or fears because we know that emotions are like waves, they rise and fall, but they don't last forever. By practicing mindfulness and recognizing the root causes of our emotions, we start to break free from the cycle of craving and aversion. Instead of reacting impulsively to every desire or fear that arises, we can respond with wisdom, patience, and compassion. This shift in perspective is transformative. We move from being driven by our emotions to being the observer of them. We regain our inner peace, not because our external circumstances change, but because we no longer allow our attachments to dictate how we feel. In the next part of this journey, we'll explore how Buddhist meditation practices can help us strengthen this understanding, allowing us to cultivate a deeper sense of emotional resilience and peace. Stay with us as we delve deeper into the transformative power of Buddhist teachings on emotional control. In Buddhism, one of the most powerful practices for emotional control is mindfulness, the ability to be fully present in each moment, without judgment. Mindfulness is not just about paying attention to the world around us, it's about cultivating a deep awareness of our thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations as they arise, without immediately reacting or being swept away by them. This practice has a profound impact on how we manage our emotions, especially in a world that often feels overwhelming or chaotic. The essence of mindfulness lies in observing our emotions as they emerge, without being controlled by them. Instead of allowing emotions to dictate our reactions, whether it's anger, fear, or sadness, mindfulness creates space for us to pause and reflect. This pause is critical, as it allows us to step back from the immediate impulse to react and instead choose a response that aligns with our deeper values and understanding. In moments of heightened emotion, whether it's frustration with a colleague or anxiety about the future, mindfulness gives us the opportunity to ask ourselves, how do I want to respond? This simple yet transformative shift moves us from being reactive to being proactive in managing our emotions. Mindfulness does not mean suppressing or ignoring our emotions. On the contrary, it teaches us to fully experience our emotions, without judgment or denial. If we feel anger, we acknowledge it. If we feel sadness, we accept it. But instead of being carried away by these feelings, mindfulness invites us to observe them as temporary experiences that are separate from who we truly are. By practicing mindfulness, we develop the ability to witness our emotions without getting entangled in them, recognizing that they are not permanent or defining aspects of our identity. This practice is especially powerful when we are faced with difficult or challenging emotions. For instance, in situations where we might feel unjustly criticized or misunderstood, mindfulness gives us the opportunity to pause and reflect before reacting. Instead of snapping back in anger or defensiveness, mindfulness allows us to take a step back, breathe, and consider the situation with a clearer mind. We can ask ourselves, what is the most compassionate way to respond? This allows us to avoid the emotional outbursts that often escalate situations and instead approach them with a sense of calm and understanding. The power of mindfulness also extends to our relationships with others. By being mindful, we become better listeners, more attuned to the needs and feelings of those around us. We stop reacting impulsively to others' words or actions and instead respond with empathy and compassion. This can transform the way we communicate, creating deeper connections and reducing the likelihood of conflict or misunderstanding. In Buddhism, the practice of mindfulness is not limited to formal meditation sessions. It can be applied in every moment of our day, from the simple act of eating to the way we interact with others. For example, when we are feeling stressed at work or overwhelmed with responsibilities, mindfulness allows us to step back and observe our thoughts without being consumed by them. We can acknowledge the stress, but we don't have to let it dictate our behavior. We can choose to respond with patience, focus, and clarity, rather than reacting out of frustration or anxiety. Over time, as we continue to practice mindfulness, we begin to develop a greater sense of emotional resilience. We become less reactive and more grounded, able to handle difficult emotions with greater ease and clarity. This doesn't mean that we stop feeling or experiencing emotions. Rather, we learn how to coexist with them, without allowing them to control us. Mindfulness teaches us that emotions are not inherently good or bad, they are simply part of the human experience. By observing them with awareness, we can navigate them skillfully, without being swept away by their intensity. Through consistent mindfulness practice, we can train ourselves to respond to our emotions with wisdom, patience, and understanding. Instead of being at the mercy of our feelings, we become the observer, gaining a sense of control over how we experience and express our emotions. This not only brings greater peace and calm to our own lives, but it also helps us create more harmonious relationships with those around us. In the next part of our exploration, we'll dive into the specific techniques of Buddhist meditation that help strengthen our mindfulness practice, allowing us to cultivate a deeper, more lasting sense of emotional control and inner peace. Stay with us as we uncover more of Buddhism's transformative teachings on emotional well-being. One of the most profound and transformative teachings in Buddhism is the principle of the middle way. It presents a path of balance, moderation, and wisdom, guiding us toward a life that avoids the extremes of indulgence and denial. When it comes to emotional control, this principle becomes an essential tool in fostering a balanced, peaceful mind, especially in the chaotic world we navigate every day. In our modern lives, emotions can often feel overwhelming. One moment, we might be soaring with happiness, and the next, we plummet into despair or anger. We may swing between joy and sorrow, excitement and frustration, constantly riding the emotional roller coaster. The middle way, however, offers a different approach, an invitation to stop living in the extremes of emotional turbulence and instead focus on the calm, grounded space that lies between. Buddhism teaches that emotions, in their essence, are natural and an inevitable part of being human. Whether it's joy, sadness, anger, or fear, we all experience a wide range of emotions. These emotions are not something to be ashamed of or suppressed, they are part of the human condition. But Buddhism also emphasizes that while emotions are natural, letting them take control of our lives can lead to suffering. The key lies not in denying or repressing our emotions but in cultivating awareness and understanding of them. The middle way advocates for a balanced relationship with our emotions. Rather than allowing emotions to dictate our actions or thoughts, we learn to acknowledge them without becoming attached to them. Think of your emotions as clouds in the sky constantly shifting, coming, and going. While the clouds may temporarily obscure the sun, they don't define the sky. Similarly, our emotions can arise without overwhelming us if we view them with clarity and mindfulness. In Buddhism, mindfulness meditation is one of the most powerful practices for fostering emotional control. Through mindfulness, we become aware of our feelings in the moment, observing them without judgment or reaction. For example, when we feel anger rising within us, we don't let it spiral into rage or act out impulsively. Instead, we pause, breathe deeply, and observe the sensation of anger. We recognize it, but we don't become it. This awareness creates space between stimulus and response, allowing us to choose how we react. The middle way teaches us not to be swept away by extreme emotional highs and lows, but to find that peaceful, balanced center where our emotions flow through us, not controlling us. It's about learning to live with our emotions in a way that doesn't allow them to overwhelm or dominate our lives. The goal is not to suppress emotion but to approach it with a sense of equanimity, peaceful acceptance of whatever we feel, without clinging to it or pushing it away. When we apply the principles of the middle way to our emotions, we foster a deep sense of inner peace. We no longer feel like victims of our emotional states. Instead, we develop the capacity to respond with compassion and clarity. This allows us to face life's challenges with a calm heart and clear mind, regardless of the emotional storms that may arise. In practical terms, this balanced approach to emotional control means recognizing when we are falling into extremes, whether we're allowing ourselves to be consumed by joy, grief, or anger, and choosing to return to a place of balance. We don't suppress the emotion, but we don't let it control us either. By acknowledging our emotions with mindfulness and self-compassion, we can navigate the ups and downs of life with greater wisdom, understanding, and peace. Ultimately, the middle way is about realizing that we don't have to be defined by our emotions. They are just one part of the vast landscape of our experiences. By cultivating mindfulness, awareness, and moderation, we can live with a sense of balance and equanimity, finding peace amidst the inevitable fluctuations of life. In this way, Buddhism offers a powerful framework for emotional control, one that does not demand the suppression of feelings but rather encourages us to be fully present with them, while also remaining grounded and centered. With the middle way as our guide, we can cultivate emotional resilience and live more peacefully, no matter the emotional storms we encounter. Compassion is one of the most powerful and transformative teachings in Buddhism, and it holds a crucial role in the art of emotional control. At its core, compassion is about extending kindness, empathy, and understanding not only toward others but also toward ourselves. In a world filled with stress, conflict, and constant demands, cultivating compassion can be the key to maintaining emotional equilibrium and resilience. When we practice compassion, we soften our emotional reactions, which allows us to respond with greater calm and patience, even in the most challenging situations. One of the most profound aspects of Buddhism is its emphasis on compassion as a transformative force. Buddhism teaches that all beings are interconnected, and that suffering is part of the shared human experience. Compassion encourages us to see the suffering in others and in ourselves and to respond with care and understanding. By adopting this compassionate perspective, we begin to move beyond the instinctive emotional reactions of anger, frustration, or fear. Instead, we respond with awareness, kindness, and empathy, which can drastically change the way we deal with difficult emotions. When we practice compassion, we also deepen our emotional resilience. Resilience is not about never feeling hurt or upset, it's about the ability to recover and maintain balance when emotions arise. With compassion, we can face our own emotional challenges without judgment. Instead of reacting harshly to ourselves when we feel angry or sad, we treat ourselves with the same kindness we would offer a dear friend. This internal kindness helps to create a safe emotional space where our feelings can be acknowledged and processed without overwhelming us. In this way, compassion nurtures emotional strength and stability. Moreover, compassion toward others can greatly enhance our emotional control. When we face conflict or frustration with another person, our immediate emotional response may be anger, irritation, or defensiveness. But when we pause and practice compassion, we shift our focus from our own emotional reactions to understanding the other person's perspective. Perhaps they are struggling with their own pain, fears, or insecurities. By recognizing their humanity and suffering, we can respond with patience, understanding, and calmness. This shift in perspective is powerful. It helps us defuse potential conflicts and enables us to approach situations with greater emotional clarity and maturity. Buddhist teachings encourage us to cultivate compassion both toward others and toward ourselves because both are deeply interconnected. We are often our harshest critics, especially when we struggle with difficult emotions like anger, shame, or sadness. But through the practice of compassion, we learn to release self-criticism and treat ourselves with the gentleness and care we deserve. This inner compassion creates a peaceful, calm foundation, allowing us to navigate emotional challenges without becoming overwhelmed by them. One of the most transformative aspects of compassion is its ability to break the cycle of reactive emotions. When we react impulsively out of anger or fear, we often create a chain reaction that only intensifies our emotional turmoil. But when we pause and practice compassion, we interrupt this cycle. Compassion creates a space for us to reflect before responding, helping us choose a more thoughtful and balanced reaction. This pause, even if just for a moment, allows us to tap into our deeper wisdom and respond in a way that aligns with our values and emotional well-being. In addition to calming the emotional storm within us, compassion strengthens our emotional control in situations of stress or conflict. Imagine a scenario where someone cuts you off in traffic, and the initial impulse is to feel irritated or enraged. With compassion, however, we can shift our perspective. Perhaps the other driver is in a rush due to an emergency, or maybe they are simply having a difficult day. By extending compassion, we can let go of the anger and maintain our inner calm. This small act of kindness toward others and ourselves can transform how we experience emotions in daily life. Compassion also plays a critical role in preventing emotional burnout. In today's world, we often give so much of ourselves to others, whether at work, in relationships, or in our communities, that we can lose sight of our own well-being. Without compassion for ourselves, we risk emotional exhaustion. But when we cultivate self-compassion, we replenish our emotional reserves. By taking time for self-care and being gentle with ourselves, we maintain the emotional strength needed to continue offering kindness and support to others. In this way, compassion isn't just a tool for emotional control, it's a foundation for long-term emotional health and resilience. The power of compassion extends far beyond its ability to help us manage emotions in challenging situations. It transforms the way we view ourselves and the world around us. It encourages us to see through the lens of shared humanity, where every person's pain, joy, and suffering are interconnected. This awareness leads to a profound sense of peace and emotional steadiness that can withstand life's storms. When we embrace compassion, we are not only nurturing our emotional control, but we are also cultivating a deeper sense of purpose and fulfillment in life. By practicing compassion, we foster a mind that is less ruled by reactive emotions and more aligned with wisdom, patience, and understanding. Compassion, in essence, is a practice that enriches our emotional lives and enhances our ability to live peacefully, no matter what external challenges arise. Through compassion, we find the key to emotional control. It allows us to stay grounded, even amidst emotional turbulence, by responding with love, patience, and understanding. Whether we are dealing with our own feelings or interacting with others, compassion gives us the strength to remain calm, balanced, and resilient. In a world where emotions can often feel overwhelming, the power of compassion offers a refuge, a path to emotional mastery and lasting peace. So, how can we bring the powerful teachings of Buddhism into our everyday lives to cultivate emotional control and maintain inner calm? The answer lies in integrating small, mindful practices into our daily routine, steps that, over time, will transform the way we relate to our emotions. Buddhism offers a wealth of wisdom, but the beauty of it lies in its simplicity. You don't need to become a monk or retreat to a temple to begin applying these principles. In fact, the true challenge and the real opportunity for growth comes from taking these teachings off the meditation cushion and into our everyday activities. One of the first and most important steps is practicing mindfulness in the little moments of daily life. Whether we are eating, walking, working, or simply having a conversation, mindfulness encourages us to be fully present and engaged in whatever we are doing. Often, our minds wander, caught in thoughts about the past or worries about the future. But mindfulness brings us back to the present moment, allowing us to experience life with clarity and without distraction. When we practice mindfulness in our daily activities, we begin to cultivate a sense of calm awareness that naturally spills over into our emotional lives. Rather than reacting impulsively to emotions, we become more attuned to them as they arise, allowing us to respond with thoughtfulness and intention. Mindfulness also extends to how we relate to our emotions. Buddhism teaches us that emotions are not inherently good or bad, they are simply a natural part of being human. However, our reaction to emotions can determine whether we experience peace or turmoil. When we practice mindfulness, we learn to acknowledge our emotions without judgment. This means when we feel anger, sadness, joy, or fear, we don't condemn ourselves for having those feelings. Instead, we observe them with curiosity and acceptance, allowing ourselves to feel without getting caught up in the emotional storm. For example, if we're feeling angry, we don't push that anger away or pretend it's not there. We simply recognize it, acknowledge its presence, and then let it pass. In this way, we begin to transform our relationship with our emotions. Rather than being swept away by them, we learn to ride the waves of our feelings with equanimity. Another key teaching from Buddhism is the practice of compassion both toward ourselves and others. Compassion is about more than just being kind to others, it's about treating ourselves with the same gentleness and understanding that we would offer a close friend. When we're dealing with difficult emotions, compassion allows us to soften our reactions. For example, when we feel frustration or impatience, compassion reminds us that we are human, and it's okay to experience these emotions. It encourages us to approach ourselves with kindness instead of harsh self-criticism. By embracing compassion, we create a safe space for ourselves to process and understand our emotions, rather than allowing them to spiral out of control. This compassion extends to our interactions with others as well. Often, we find ourselves triggered by the behavior of those around us. Someone cuts us off in traffic, or a colleague snaps at us, and our immediate emotional response is to react with anger or irritation. However, by practicing compassion, we are able to shift our perspective. We begin to recognize that others are also struggling with their own emotions and challenges. Instead of reacting defensively, compassion helps us respond with patience and understanding, allowing us to maintain our emotional balance in difficult situations. This doesn't mean we ignore or excuse harmful behavior, rather, we respond with awareness and equanimity, seeking resolution without being consumed by negative emotions. Incorporating Buddhist teachings into daily life also means acknowledging that emotional control isn't about suppressing or ignoring our emotions. It's about transforming our relationship with them. Buddhism encourages us to embrace all aspects of our emotional experience, both the highs and the lows, without becoming attached to them or allowing them to define us. Emotions are temporary and ever-changing, and when we stop clinging to them, we begin to find a deeper sense of inner peace. By recognizing that emotions come and go, we can cultivate a sense of stability that isn't dependent on the fluctuations of our emotional state. Rather than letting our emotions dictate our behavior, we learn to choose our responses, remaining grounded and centered no matter what challenges arise. Practice of integrating these Buddhist principles into our lives doesn't require dramatic changes or grand gestures. It's about small, consistent actions that gradually transform the way we experience and respond to the world around us. As we practice mindfulness, acknowledge our emotions with acceptance, and cultivate compassion for ourselves and others, we start to shift our emotional landscape. Over time, this will naturally lead to greater emotional resilience, inner calm, and a deeper sense of peace. Perhaps the most profound realization we can have is that emotional control doesn't mean becoming indifferent or detached from our feelings. Instead, it means having the wisdom to recognize our emotions, the mindfulness to observe them without being overwhelmed, and the compassion to approach them with kindness and understanding. As we integrate these practices into our lives, we will find that emotional peace isn't a distant goal, it's something we can cultivate right here, right now, in every moment. By applying Buddhist teachings in our everyday lives, we are not only learning to control our emotions, but we are also cultivating a greater sense of awareness, compassion, and inner peace. These practices, simple yet profound, allow us to live more consciously, respond to challenges with calmness and clarity, and build lasting emotional resilience. As we continue to walk this path, we will find that true emotional control isn't about suppressing or avoiding our feelings, it's about transforming our relationship with them, embracing them fully, and responding with wisdom and compassion. Through these small steps, we can create a life filled with lasting emotional peace.